want this.
It fits you perfectly.
That is not going to fit you.
This is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Or should I... The iceberg.
It does look a little microscopic there, right?
Speaking of fighting, you know, Philadelphia quarterback Michael Vick was banned for life from owning a dog as a result of his dog fighting scandal, but he thinks getting a dog might be good for his rehabilitation and show people how much he's really come to love the animals. And Bill made a good point downstairs. He said, you know, we don't stop people from having children, even after they've, you know, been in jail and maybe they were child abusers. We don't make those kind of laws. So is this a little much for a judge to decide that he can never have a dog?
I just think dogs around are lining up for the witness protection programs. Like, no, don't pick me.
You think so? I don't know. I think he did. He obviously did his time, and he seems to have a ton of repentance in his heart right now. And if he thinks that this would help him, I think it could be potentially a great thing, you know, and I think if it's a monitored system and they are able to check on the dog, which they probably would do, if this is part of indeed a rehabilitation program, they would probably check the dog like they would a child. And I think it could be a great healing thing, and I don't think it's our place to say he shouldn't if he indeed has paid his time.
You know, he said one of the things that's very difficult, he said his child wants a dog, his daughter wants a dog, and he says, I don't know what to tell her as to why we can't have one. That's, you know, maybe you, I don't know how old
a lie. I would just straight up lie.
No, tell her the truth.
Oh, yeah, Daddy was, I mean, you can't.
I think it really depends on how old she is.
Yeah, well,
you know, and I think that it's done, and I think he was kind of, it was a no-win situation because they asked him this question if he thinks he should have a dog. He's done his time, like you said, but I think that probably is more of a punishment for Michael Vick. It's the fact he's taken the lumps, he's taken the consequences that have come from his actions, but the fact that his daughters look at him and say, you know, we didn't do what you did, Daddy, we didn't do that.
Would you let him watch Cha-Cha?
well, Cha-Cha would... yes, I would let him watch Cha-Cha. I think he has learned, you know, his lesson, and he's not going to abuse this dog, and nobody's going to have to come and watch it.
At some point,
and,
you know...
living, it's okay.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, either we send people to jail and we believe the jail system is going to rehabilitate them, or we don't believe it, in which case we shouldn't be sending people to jail. I mean, you know, every time this guy does something, it always sort of has this weird taint to it. Now, I feel like we've come full circle, because the very first day on The View for me, you know, I talked about Michael Vick and my thoughts as to why he might have done the thing that he did. But I just wonder, you know, when do you get repentance?
But, you know, there are people who have done things financially, for example, and paid the price, gone to jail and so forth, and yet they are barred for the rest of their lives from jobs that have to do with securities, you know, and so on, even though they've been in jail. So, I mean, there are certain things that continue even when you're no longer in the prison, and even when you've supposedly paid your price.
But with Michael Vick, if you look at his story, he was a Pro Bowl quarterback, the best of the best. And when he went to prison, he came out. He didn't blame the system. He took his humble pie. They made him a third string. He said he appreciated the fact that the team took him back. So he was third string, which means there were 2 other people ahead of him. For a year, I think he only played a couple games. Right. So he sat there. He made that rehabilitation work for him. He worked hard. He worked hard. When the quarterback got injured, that's when they came to him. He took advantage of that opportunity. He went out and played so well that they couldn't deny him. Michael Vick, when he's on that field, he runs like, I ain't going back to prison.
What does it have to do with the dogs?
That's the way he runs.
What does it have to do with the dogs?
No, but we're talking about repentance. We're talking about
it has nothing to do with the dogs, what you're saying.
I think we just heard...
Here's one thing I would say.
Let him have a dog. Okay.
On that note, I will say this. If he can work, if he has proven to work in one area as hard in discipline and making sacrifices for the ultimate goal, I do in fact think that it can be applied to the situation with the dog. If he can apply that same discipline to working and feeling like he's changed, I think that's fine, and I think he would be a person who potentially could be a good
I still make Bill's point that people who have been convicted of child abuse can still go out and make someone pregnant and have a baby. There's no law saying you can't get somebody pregnant. Interesting to think about. But listen, Sherry, think about this, because Sherry is having some issues.
Oh,
she's having issues.
Oh, my gosh.
Apparently, her Facebook friend, who turned out to be her dad, He actually wants to be her Facebook friend, and she's having...
Yeah, I got this, I was going on my Facebook, and I got this request to add a friend, and I opened it up, and I'm like, that's my daddy. He wants to be my Facebook friend.
What'd you do?
I'm going to deny him. People are clapping. Do you know why?
You called him to tell him this, or is he just finding this out from the show?
He's just finding out now.
You're not getting a Christmas present from him.
Yeah, we're going to see each other at Christmas. And I feel like the social network to me is like, I love my daddy. We're very close. But, you know, the social network for me is like being with my friends and my peers. It's like if you go to a party or if you go to a bar. There's certain things that I might say or do with my friends and my peers that I wouldn't do or say in front of my father.
Is your father already on Facebook?
He is on Facebook. My sisters have him as friends.
Do you, are you a friend of his on his Facebook?
No, I did not. I don't need to know what my father does.
How would you feel about it if Jeffrey, when he gets older, asks you to be a friend and you say no?
If Jeffrey's grown,
and he
not if he's a teenager.
No,
if he's grown.
Man,
if he's a grown man, then I have to accept.
Jeffrey, come on, I would like to be a friend on Facebook.
You know what I probably do? I probably create a whole different thing, or have one of or go, Elizabeth, you asked to be his friend. But I would have to accept. That's the kind of mother.
A lot of moms do actually have their friends. Kids actually friend their friends.
Let me ask you, is it because there are things on Facebook that you would discuss on Facebook and not?
Facebook, this whole social network is like, look, I'm Prince. I told Prince when he came, I've been waiting to make love to you for the last 40 years. You remember, Whoopi?
I remember.
If my dad was sitting there in that audience, I'd have been the quietest little girl ever. I would have never said that in front of my father.
But he is sitting there.
But it's not the same as seeing him.
Shouldn't you worry in your position of these kinds of things on Facebook? And isn't there anything that's going to come back and haunt you, whether it's your father or anybody?
The animal instinct in you.
I don't think I want my father controlling
You just blurt stuff out.
And when I do, and my father, I get a text every single day from my dad about what.
I used to get a text from my mother telling me to watch my face.
Your mom texted you.
My mom used to, no, she didn't text me. She called me on the, we don't do all that social stuff. But she used to say, look, what's going on with your face? Because I guess sometimes I would be like this. I would have this kind of mug, and she would go, you know what? You need to curb that. I don't think it's a bad idea for him to be able to say to you, I don't think you want to say this on Facebook, because you are just one of those free spirits who just says anything that will come back and bite you in the butt.
But he can do that without his being your friend.
Yeah, I don't need to give him more access into, because there's a lot of stuff your parents are going to say to you, you should curb and you should do. And if you say it to me, that's one thing. If you say it to me, I don't need my father knowing everything and being privy to everything that I
put that out on Facebook.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not that I do anything crazy on Facebook, but even if I did,
you don't want him there.
Bottom line, you want some things. I mean, at a certain point, my daughter began to tell me a lot of things that I didn't know at some point in her life. And you know what? I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's,
And it's something, Barbara, I don't know with how your relationship was with your dad, but sometimes it's a little bit different when you do stuff with your mom than in front of your father.
You know what? Here's the thing. We're going to go and talk about this because it's very deep, but we're going to come right back because that's what we do. We'll be right back with more Hot Topics.